All right, next question up says I'm in a bit of a pickle right now. The short version is I've not been adapting to the deadlift volume that I've been prescribed, and even after I took a deload week, as per your recommendation, letting my long-term track score become green again. I'm now 2.5 weeks out, and my long-term track scores are too high. They're in the red. I also couldn't even get my typical at 8 single off the floor yesterday because of low back and hip fatigue. I didn't do any back off work. I'm not sure what I should do the next couple weeks so that I can get my deadlift back and pull fresh at the meet. What do you suggest for the deadlift portion of my programming? I'm going to suggest some modifications for you. First up, you mentioned that your track scores are too high. They're in the red again. I do think you should make some volume adjustments in these last couple of weeks to try to get that a little more under control. Even if you can get it down into the orange, that would be helpful. You're going to have to kind of be the driver on that and figure out where that line is. If you can bring it down into the orange, I think that would be good. Now, it's a balancing act at this point because we don't want to drop it too much. If we drop it too much, then that can compromise the adaptation, that can compromise the peaking. So I would suggest to you to modify only the supplemental lifts. If you, and you probably do need to cut some volume, so cut only the supplemental lifts and see if you can get that long-term fatigue to drop back down into the orange. If on the other hand you're saying, well, if you feel like track is telling you you're in the red but you don't feel that bad, then roll on, get through the meet and then use track's recommendation on a more long-term basis. Next, I'd like to talk with you about what you should do after this. When you're in your next training cycle, it seems like the training that you're getting, the training group that you're in is maybe a little more aggressive than your recovery can tolerate. So I would encourage you to control your frequency and control your number of sessions and use that to help manage that track number to try to keep it somewhere between green and orange when you're in a normal loading pattern. Now what I mean by that is if your track gets a little bit too high, then drop that priority 4 training session. Drop a training session to make sure that your total amount of fatigue is staying under control. Now that's going to be for next cycle, so after this we're going to have a restoration and blah blah blah, and then we'll start from a base of good fatigue control, and I want you to be a little bit more proactive about how you're controlling that fatigue as you go through your next training cycle. Now let's talk about what I want you to do on your deadlift to get through this meet. Now the first thing, so you said you missed what should have been a typical weight due to low back and hip fatigue. It's not because you're weaker. It's you're just unable to display it right now because you have a lot of fatigue. That's all right. So we're going to change up how your deadlift is approached for these last couple of weeks. Basically, I want to do the important stuff for the deadlift and minimize the other volume. That's going to help allow you to dissipate that fatigue. Now, we already talked about cutting out the supplemental lifts for the deadlift. So now there's 2 remaining lifts. There's your primary and your assistance for your deadlift. So what I would like for you to do at that point, there's a single in your training. Clearly, you work up to a single and an 8. We're going to micro load up to that weight, and we might do 1 back offset after that. So what I would like you to do is something. Well, first let me give you some background. what's going on here is not, like I said, it's not that you're not strong enough. It's not even that your muscles aren't capable of producing that amount of force. It's just that you're fatigued, and because of the way the deadlift is, you kind of get these neurological breaks a lot faster. And it's just that your body doesn't want to lift that weight. It's not posing any danger to you, and you have all this fatigue. So you kind of get things to shut down a little bit faster. So let me give you an example from my own training, because I don't have any of your numbers in front of me. So I knew from my own training that my deadlift was not the strongest it's ever been, but I should be strong enough easily to deadlift 705. So I went into the gym to pull 705 and missed it. Same sort of thing. Like, I felt like, it should be there, but it just wasn't. I could deadlift 605, but not 705. Now, obviously, there's a 100-pound difference between those two. So what I did was, in the next training session, I deadlifted 605, and then I went up in like 20-pound increments just as far as I could go, and I got to 685. And then in the next session, I got to 705. I didn't go up from all the way from 605 to 705 in the next session, but the goal for me was to take 5-6 singles up to a single at an 8 RPE. So I think you should do something similar. Plan to take 5 or 6 singles. Start with something pretty light. Take smallish jumps. So for me, I'm working with 600-700 pounds, and I took 20-pound jumps. So you should take something relatively proportional. The jumps itself isn't that critical, so pick something that's easy to load as well. And use that to get up to your single. And then after your single, put whatever back off weight that we're supposed to do, and do one good effort set with it. Get your RPE between 8 and 9. So it's not truly an AMRAP set or anything like that. You're going to stop early, but that's it. So you're going to do 5-6 singles working up. Then you're going to drop the weight down, and instead of doing a series of a lot of volume after that, I want you to do one good rep set and cut it there. That's going to drop your volume down, and it's going to be easier for you to tolerate and recover from. That should get you back on track within a couple of sessions. That should get you back to doing the weights that you normally do. You should feel the fatigue dissipate. So all these measures, you should feel some changes in a pretty short amount of time. Within a week, I would say, you should see some clear improvements. So we're going to get rid of the deadlift supplemental movements. We're going to change your approach to the singles, and then change the volume work. Now that's going to take effect for the primary and the assistance deadlift slots. So if you have deadlift with chains, or actually at this stage of your training, it's probably some sort of pause deadlift. You're going to follow a similar approach there. Take a series of singles, get up to your single at an 8, do one good back off set, and call it good. Let me know if you have any questions on this.